fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
It's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
That's right, thanks to Allstate Security, Hot Toddies and Scamander Coffee Mug, it's round 5 of the Pro Truck Showdown here on SimSpeed TV. My name is Reese Gardiner. Joining me in the commentary box is Cameron Dance. Cam, round 5 of this fantastic championship, fixed setup racing in the Lucas Oil Off-Road Pro 2 trucks. They go to some really big tracks here. We've gone to Phillip Island, Silverstone, we've gone to Barcelona and Watkins Glen as well. Now we are in Brazil. We're at Interlagos, one of the most fantastic Formula One venues ever, very highly regarded circuit, and Cam, it is going to result in some fantastic racing in these trucks.
Certainly, it's going to be a really, really good night of racing, I reckon. And usually when we go to Interlagos, there's usually good racing. Doesn't matter what car it is, it's always produced really, really good racing. So if that's anything to go by, we're going to see probably some of the best racing we've ever seen on this track in this series.
Yes, indeed. There's a lot of squared off corners here at Interlagos, plenty of elevation change as well, and a huge amount of hairpins. So there's a lot of opportunities for big sends up the inside. We're in qualifying at the moment, 2 minutes to go. Alan Rushworth just crossing the line there as we have more times coming in. That's no time, unfortunately, for Alan. I think he got an off track somewhere along the way. Lockie Dalton currently tops the timesheets, 1 minute 52.6. Brian Trezise, on the other hand, he puts in quite the time. Is immediately knocked back a few positions to 1:54.3. Let's have a look at how this goes. Justin Howe and Dwayne Priest setting their competitive times as well, but it looks like Lockie Dalton has the edge over the field so far. That's a 4/10 gap over a pretty long lap here at Interlagos.
Certainly, and well, it does actually seem like a long lap. It kind of is at the same time. So yeah, it's very marginal on being 2-minute laps, but at the same time it's not. So yeah, it's just one of those things about this track, and so far it's looking pretty close as well at the top of the timesheets between Dalton and Donnelly at the moment, but you can see what the likes of Daniel Stevens can do as he's coming through the second half of the circuit.
Yes, indeed. Daniel Stevens finishing on the podium, taking a win last round out, and looking forward to seeing what he can do here. But Cade Donnelly, who we just looked at before, moving up to second in the timesheets, and that's looking pretty good for him, splitting the gap between Dalton and Howe almost perfectly. Stevens, meanwhile, up out onto the top of the hill, and away he comes across the start-finish line. Very long start-finish straight. here at Interlagos. We'll see what he can do. No time at the moment for Daniel, but across the line he goes with 20 seconds to go. That's a 53.57, and that puts him into P8, it seems. So not the best way for Daniel Stevens to start off his night, but we know how crazy the racing can get in these things. Everyone has a chance to move forward.
Certainly do. And they even have a chance to try and win the race as well with the inverts that we have. So race 2 is going to be just as interesting, but let's get ready for race 1.
Yes, indeed. Qualifying is now over, and the first grid of the night here for the first race is headed up by Lockie Dalton and Kay Donnelly, with Justin Howe and Dwayne Priest on the second row. Aaron Dillon and Todd Maxfield complete the top 6. Sam Stride and Daniel Stevens on the fourth row, with the top 10 rounded out by Harry Tompkins and Damian Westbrook.
Page 2, Christopher Finlay and Brian Trees, followed by Nathan Verney and Malcolm Coates. Philip Howe and Alan Rustworth on row 8. Row 9 is going to be Joshua Thomas and Gary Wellman, and then Brandon Adolf and Justin Haitley rounding out the 21-car field.
There's a nice big field here. The revs continue to rise. We're going to see what kind of starts these guys get. It's a very short run to turn 1 here at Interlagos. We've still got a minute to go on the grid timer as well, so it's certainly going to be a long wait for these drivers. But coming into the first couple turns here, the Senna S is going to be a big place for passes, a big place for crashes potentially as well, because you go hard left and then hard right again down the hill, and then you've got a nice long corner Curva do Sol to take them onto the back stretch up to Descida do Lago at turn 4, which is another great passing opportunity here at Interlagos. You're going to see slipstreaming, you're going to see last-minute dives, and especially in the middle of the track through the hairpin section, there's another place where you're going to be seeing some big sends. 10 seconds to go then. Every driver out on the grid, getting ready to go for Interlagos. The start is very important in these things. You can very easily bog down. So it's going to be all on the drivers, how they get away from these grid spots. The revs rise, and we're going to get going for round 5 of the Pro Truck Showdown here at Interlagos. And we are away. Consistent start at the front of the grid, but that's a fantastic jump from Justin Howe. He is going to split Kay Donnelly and Lockie Dalton on the way down to turn 1 in the middle. 3 wide up at the front, but slipping through Kay Donnelly is a big crash in the back. That is a truck tumbling over. There's actually 2 trucks that are off at the side. Harry Tompkins and Malcolm Coates, both of them out in turn 1, and Harry Tompkins carrying some very heavy damage, but the race continues out of Curva do Sol. Kay Donnelly has the gap over Lockie Dalton. Justin Howe has fallen back into third. He's getting pressured by Aaron Dillon. Single file on the run up to Descida do Lago. Firing it in was Brian Trezise going across the inside of the corner, but just managing to pull it up. Already seeing some battle scars, though. Damian Westbrook, I can see, is missing his front end cam, and he's getting pressured by Philip Howe and Alan Rushworth.
Apparently is, and ended up losing it as a result of the contact that he had with Harry on lap 1 at turn 1 as well. So he's ended up losing that front end as a result, and it's not gone too well for him, but certainly is quite the battle pack down here as they're all trying to jostle for position side by side on the way through the hairpin here, and it's looking like Howe's going to try hold it around the outside, barely going to be able to do it, but he's got the job done, and it's going to have the inside for the following corner. Not quite going to be able to send it up the inside, though, of the car ahead.
And there is Alan Rushworth trying to defend from Philip Howe. And oh my goodness, that was a big slide there from Nathan Verney. I think that was connected to the battle we just saw. And that's concertinaed back into Gary Wellman. He's now right at the back of that battle, trying a move up on Joshua Thomas through the Junsao corner. It's a bad exit from Verney, and Josh Thomas off the circuit. He's into the wall. So that's already a lot of damage there for Justin Thomas, compounded by the wall up there at the top of the circuit. But lap 1 is complete. This is a 5-lapper for the first heat of the night, and we are on for the top 3 positions. As Lockie Dalton, he tried defending from Justin Howe, but he got a tap there from Maxfield and Dillon behind. And Maxfield moves on up into 4th position. Lockie Dalton has the run, though, on Cade Donnelly here for the lead of the race. This could potentially be a move into Interlagos down at turn 4, but the track narrows up on the exit, so Dalton's going to have to be careful here. And Donnelly just as brave on the brakes, but through goes Dalton. Massive amount of body roll in these trucks as Dalton moves on through into the lead. That looked like a pretty textbook move.
Certainly did, and a very, very nice move indeed to make it on up the order, but you can still see it's still going on just behind, outside of the top 5, and it's really not letting anyone get away as well as a result. And Sam Stride really putting the pressure on Aaron Dillon as well, who's not too far off the back of Todd Maxfield.
Yeah, exactly. This is a great fight here for the top 7 all together on track at the moment, and Daniel Stevens is the one heading up the back of it. He's got a great view of all of this action. Bit of contact with Todd Maxfield and Aaron Dillon through Bico de Pato, which is the final hairpin of the lot. See if anyone tries a move at Jun Sao. No, not going to happen because it's the run down the straight that makes the difference. Oh, big slide for Aaron Dillon, and he's lost a couple of positions out of that one. It looks like that was started off by just getting a bit sideways under brakes. Barely missed the number 16 of Todd Maxfield. The fight goes on down the front straight. Stevens starting to draft up to the back of Aaron Dillon at the back of the pack. And here is the pack for the top 10. You see him just behind these guys. Oh, Stevens up the inside into turn 1. Aaron Dillon tries defending. Bit of contact, hip and shoulder, as Stevens moves on past. And he is through then into position 6. Have a look at the battle behind them. Philip Howe heading up this big fight. As we see once again, it's Cade Donnelly and Lockie Dalton for the lead. Well, actually, Lockie Dalton up in the lead up ahead. Cade Donnelly getting pressured by Justin Howe there and moves on through into 2nd position. Cade Donnelly, despite starting really well, he's beginning to move back here. He's got more trucks, ready to go. Todd Maxfield and Sam Stride in waiting.
Yeah, he's starting to drop down a little bit as a result, so possibly overdriving the truck a little bit, and up the inside goes Todd Maxfield, even across the grass, even trying to find a way on by, but not going to be able to get by, and Sam Stride's going to throw it up the inside as a result. A little bit of biff and barge going on, struggling to get the power down, but Sam Stride not quite going to be able to get the job done, but it's going to stick around the outside though on the way down towards the back end of the circuit, and he's barely going to hold on to the position, but it's going to have to concede.
Yeah, Todd Maxfield there, taking the hairpins in first gear. You get a bit more rotation when you put the power down, and Maxfield able to use that to consolidate the position against Sam Stride. But it's not going to happen for him now, because on the exit of Junkau, he has gone off the circuit and lost the position right back to Sam Stride. Got to be careful on exit, because you get on the throttle a bit too hard, the truck can actually understeer due to the weight transfer. So you got to be smooth on the exit out of those slow corners. You're just going to go straight off into the grass. Oh, for the lead, though, Lockie Dalton having to defend against Mr. Howe. Just moves ahead, but on the left-hander, Howe pressures him again. Goes off the circuit. That might be a slowdown for Justin Howe. They've got to be very careful with that, but he's going to get the over-under out of Curva do Sol, only just. And up the inside, Mr. Howe goes. Lockie Dalton is not going to have much of a response to this one. Through goes Howe into the lead of the race, but you get the feeling, Cam, this is a game of musical chairs that's going to go on for the next 2 laps.
Yeah, it certainly is, based on the way everybody's been more or less passing it that single turn only at this stage anyway, so we'll see what happens here and whether the boys get their elbows out or not later on in the last 2 laps or so, but Dalton's not letting Howe get away here, and he's certainly still applying the pressure, so probably going to be trying to find a way on by in the next lap, I reckon.
Yeah, especially if you use those curbs like they are. The curbs in this hairpin section, you can put the entire truck onto them and then some. So Howe now, he has the advantage through this section. No threat of passing. That's a long line of cars, and the draft is going to come into effect down at the front stretch. Donnelly still holding on to a podium position, but Sam Stride is looking pretty hungry for a P3 in the first race of the night. There's 3 races tonight, remember, and all of them count for points. So you have to finish well in all 3 races if you want that round win. Dalton in the slipstream of Howe then across the start-finish line. Let's see what they do coming into turn 1. He's a bit too far back to make a move into turn 1 as they get the white flag. But there might be a Hail Mary move down into Interlagos, or maybe earlier if Justin Howe decides to overshoot the first turn and let Lockie Dalton go again. Very difficult to pull these things up when you're in the heat of a racing situation.
Yeah, certainly. He overshot and not what he would have wanted either, is Dalton using all the track he can to try and defend this one from Howe. He's going to have a nice draft and actually a decent run on the way down into turn number 3 as well. He's going to pull up alongside on the outside, but not quite going to be able to get the move done on it. He's going to stick there and at least try hold on, but not quite going to be able to in the end.
Yeah, Sam Stride is really attacking Cade Donnelly as well. You see them run there side by side behind our 2 leaders. Up the inside at Ferradura, attempts Stride, but it's not going to work. Not quite a passing opportunity at that stage, but Donnelly is in trouble for P3. Lockie Dalton still holds on to the lead of the race, but Justin Howe is looking for every gap possible, every opportunity he can to try and find a way past. He's going to be on the exit of this corner. No, he tried to go for the over-under, but no dice. A move up the inside here, maybe? No, not without a little bit of extra contact. See if he gets the narrow exit down. It's not going to happen. He might have to go for a move at Junsao if he wants this victory. Justin Howe goes for it, but defensive line from Lockie Dalton, and that might work out for him across the line. He's just managed to put the power down perfectly, and given this draft, it looks like it's actually going to be side by side to the line if these guys keep it together. Out moves Howe, goes onto the grass, gives Lockie Dalton another little hip check coming up to the line, hitting the wall again and again, side by side, but it looks like Lockie Dalton is just going to get it from Justin Howe, and Cade Donnelly just holding off the advances of Sam Stride as well. That winning margin, 0.03 of a second. How do you like that?
I actually thought it was going to end up being a 3-way run across the line, but it didn't quite. In the end, Donnelly didn't quite have the momentum, but what a finish and what a race.
What a race indeed. There is the top 10 at the very end of it. Dwayne Priest holding on for a top 10 there, with Daniel Stevens keeping it in P7. Excellent run from those drivers, but we're going to wait now for the last few drivers to come across the line. It looks like Nathan Verney's ultimately going to retire from this one. Christopher Finlay and Brian Trezise are coming across the line now as well. In the midst of all that, unfortunately, Justin Haitley, Harry Tompkins, and Braden Adolph either not taking to the grid or out on lap 1. So big shame for those guys. They're going to have to work a bit harder in the next couple of races, the second of which is coming up right now. And on the front row, it's going to be Braden Adolph and Lachlan Manif. At least it should be, but they might not still be in the server. The field is being inverted for the finishing order for race 1. So Harry Tompkins and Justin Haitley supposed to start 3rd and 4th, with Finlay and Coots in 5th and 6th, Brian Trezise in 7th, Nathan Verney 8th, Joshua Thomas in 9th, and rounding out the top 10, Gary Wellman.
We have Alan Rushworth, Dwayne Priest, Damien Westbrook, Philip Howe, and Daniel Stevens rounding out the top 15, followed by Aaron Dillon, Todd Maxfield, Sam Stride, Cade Donnelly, Justin Howe, and then Lockie Dalton rounding out the 21-car field.
And we are going to go green instantly here for the second race of the night. Not a great start from Christopher Finlay, who started in second. Harry Tompkins with a bit of an advantage there at the start, thanks to being a couple of grid spots ahead. Up the inside goes Brian Trezise, up the inside of Christopher Finlay. Oh, big contact between them, though, as they make their way through turn 2, and Finlay having to go wide and yield to Nathan Verney and Gary Wellman, and that's going to translate into a very poor run down the straight for Finlay, off into the gravel trap, off into the tarmac runoff, losing positions then to Joshua Thomas and to Alan Rushworth. on the run up to the first turn. Our leaders from the first race are all dicing with each other at the back. Meanwhile, a big crash. Dwayne Priest is up and over. Contact with Aaron Dillon and I believe as well Todd Maxfield involved in that too. So not a great run for those guys to start off the second race of the night. Philip Howe is still struggling to defend here. He's trying to get a pass done on Finlay, but it's not happening, and Daniel Stevens moves on past him as a result. My goodness, can Philip Howe hold on around the outside? Look at Wellman off the circuit there. My goodness, look at this. They're all going to come together on the exit of the turn. Gary Wellman into Nathan Verney, and now all of them piling into the hairpin at the same time, side by side just about everywhere. Whoa, Westbrook hip and shoulders someone out of the way, and it looks like that is Philip Howe around and over. Joining him on their roofs, Lockie Dalton, and for a brief period, Justin Howe. But it looks like Justin has managed to get back onto his roof, and he's going to try and get him back over.
Trying to at least get Dalton back on his wheels, but it doesn't quite seem to be working, unfortunately. But a replay of what happened here, and you can just see it all started from the big checkup, unfortunately, with Philip Howe going around, and then everybody sort of piled in with nowhere to go. It didn't quite end too well.
No, it didn't. We've had a few casualties out of that one, so that means that Harry Tompkins still in a dominant lead of this one at the end of lap 1. Ryan Trezise follows him up, but for third on back, have a look at this. Damian Westbrook goes by Gary Wellman. Wellman has to check up in turn 2. That's going to let Christopher Finlay back by, potentially, but if he messes up the mid-corner of the Curva do Sol, then that's going to mean Gary Wellman gets a better run, and he's going to protect into turn 4. But Sam Stride right there, who we ride on board with, onto the brakes, advancing forward are the drivers behind, and unfortunately a lot of them having to fan out to avoid an incident. So Daniel Stevens still heading up against Alan Rushworth. Todd Maxfield now ahead of Nathan Verney.
Stevens trying to get up the inside. He's looking and looking, but no gap is going to be there. Unfortunately, he's going to have to sit station, but he's going to try another lunge. Nope, not quite going to be able to again.
Oh, no, there we go. Gary Wellman over. That was Sam Stride making contact with him and sending him for a big old tumble up at the hairpin, which is quite an easy thing to do in these trucks. Another replay, thanks to our mates at Modem Simulation. You'll see what happened here on the exit of the Ferradura complex. Up he went, did Sam Stride, but making contact with Wellman's side, and over he went. Very easy to do in these trucks, but I think Wellman was very fortunate to land on his wheels.
No, he didn't. I think that last impact on the side of his wheels actually helped roll him back over onto his wheels as well with the amount of momentum that it carried. So he got very, very lucky there, and it was quite funny to actually see the way that it just bounced and rolled itself in the air. But nevertheless, it's still on for 4th place at the moment between Sam Stride and Daniel Stevens, who's got not too bad of a run, probably not quite going to be close enough to have a lunge, but Stride is going to look to the inside of Westbrook as they head on the way into turn number 1, well and truly up the inside. Westbrook's going to try and hold it around the outside. No gap for Stevens to make it on by, but there's another position for Sam Stride.
And he's up now into P3 as Sam, but for how long? Because had to check up a little bit through the middle of this left-hander. He's still in a bit of trouble from Westbrook. He knows it. He's going defensive here. Westbrook's going to try and find a way to the inside. Bit of contact between the two of them. Stride kept moving over. They're at the braking zone, though, and having to go wide, Damian Westbrook. Stevens almost found an opportunity through on the inside, but nothing happening for now. You can tell, though, Damian Westbrook is a little bit wounded thanks to the pass from Sam Stride, and Stevens is smelling blood. He has another look up the inside into Ferradura, down into 2nd, and then back up into 3rd gear on the entry into the hairpins. Here comes Stevens then. No! Gets the door firmly slammed shut in his face by Damian Westbrook. Another hip check on the run down into this descending hairpin.
Biff and barge going on in this little battle pack here. Stevens trying to find a way on by a little bit of a bump onto the back of Westbrook there to try and unsettle him, but not quite going to be successful in that. He has to be careful as well because Maxford is right there behind Stevens, so he has to be careful of what's behind him, but also make sure that he doesn't make any mistakes and hit the car of Damian Westbrook just ahead of him as he gets a tap from behind from Maxfield. on the way out of the final corner onto the front straight, and Stevens is looking up the inside, going to give Westbrook a bit of a bump draft, and it's going to give it Maxford a nice double draft down the front straight as a result. A little bit of bump drafting. Stevens looks to the inside on the way down. Oh, a little bit of contact on the way by the pit entry. Maxfield is right there looking left and right, is going to go to the inside, force it 3 wide into turn number 1. Not quite going to be hard enough on the brakes, and Stevens is barely going to come out of that one successful, and Westbrook is going to lose 2 for 1.
Wow. Yeah, catch your breath, Cam. That was crazy there. Damien Westbrook, of course, with a poor exit out of Junsao. That's what got him. And Daniel Stevens with a bad exit out of Curva de Sol. Maxfield already ahead of him on the exit. He is on Stevens' left coming down into the 4th turn. Stevens much later on the brakes, though. He's going to try and defend here in 2nd, but Todd Maxfield has got the inside line for this next corner. Might he be able to get by Stevens before they get to Ferradura? No, Stevens is going to keep it going up to these double right-handers. Again, later on the brakes, Todd Maxfield trying his best to hold it, but Stevens is going to have the advantage here, just slots right on by Maxfield, and then Maxfield has to go towards his inside into the hairpin, though not without yet another hip check.
Yeah, this is the likes of Finlay and Donnelly right into this battle as well. This battle, the hard battling that's been going on just ahead of them as well between Stevens, Maxfield, and Westbrook. So, going to be a 5-car train for the position of P number 5 really at this stage, and not too far behind is Aaron Dillon and Dwayne Priest as well, recovering from their less than optimal start to this race.
We see as well that Sam Stride has passed Brian Trezise and moved himself up into 2nd place as well. So Sam Stride really on a roll in this 2nd race. Dwayne Priest there rounding out the top 10. But Stride, his times, 53.4 on the last lap. For the most part, it's been high 52s from him, but pretty identical times from Harry Tompkins. He unfortunately hasn't had that lap count because he's dealing with some technical issues right now as we see a move up the inside coming into the 1st turn. It looks like that is Daniel Stevens through again on Todd Maxfield. That battle is going to continue for quite some time, I believe. This is a 6-lap race and we have 2 to go.
Stevens is actually not too far off Trezise and Stride as well, and he's got decent pace compared to them. He's actually slightly quicker than, slightly slower than Sam Stride, but a lot quicker than Brian Trees as well. So going to be probably on for a podium here as Daniel Stevens, possibly a 2nd place if he can pick up the pace a little bit.
Yeah, we will see as we ride on board with Damien Westbrook. He's got Todd Maxfield there in front of him and Daniel Stevens just up ahead. He's going to have to be careful, though, as Damien, because he's got Cade Donnelly coming up on him right behind. Christopher Finlay has managed to keep himself in this top 10 battle, despite his mistakes, and he's managed to keep himself up there in 8th, still pressuring the back. But Cade Donnelly, I think it's only a matter of time before a move is attempted here on Westbrook. Damien going defensive, coming into Bico de Pato, and fires it out over the exit curb. Down into Junsao then for the 5th time here, and it's going to be white flag this time by for these drivers. Wide entry for Maxfield coming into Junsao, but he's going to translate that into a great exit down the straight. Not so for Damien Westbrook, bit too much oversteer over the curb. That's going to give Cade Donnelly a bit of a sniff at a move into turn 1. Here we go then. Off the track goes Damien Westbrook. Very hard to keep it on track in these trucks over that section. Just nudging up the inside is Cade Donnelly. And this is going to be an outbreak maneuver potentially into turn 1, but you can break really late into the 1st corner here at Interlagos. Westbrook going all for it, but ultimately overshoots. Lack of momentum, and Donnelly through. Final lap then. Let's see what these drivers can do.
Yes. See what they can do and whether there's going to be any sort of big moves or not, or whether everybody's just going to sort of have to sit where they are and take what they've got. But you've still got Aaron Dillon and Dwayne Priest right on the tail of this group as well, so might be a couple of positions gained for them who are just inside the top 10 as well. But I don't think Strees is just going to be able to hold on to the 4th place as well, with the fact that Stevens is coming, but probably it's going to be a bit marginal on whether he's going to get there or not.
Yeah, that's going to be the thing. We're right on board with Daniel Stevens looking back at Todd Maxfield, and it seems like Stevens has the gap or overshot it a little bit into the first hairpin, but that's much of a muchness. He's going to be able to get that back in other corners. So a potential P3 for Daniel Stevens here. And Brian Trezise is really starting to come under pressure now. There is Sam Stride in second that we just see going through the second last corner. What's going to happen down at Juntsao then? Cade Donnelly in 6th place. He doesn't try any moves, but Todd Maxfield goes for it in Juntsao, gives Daniel Stevens a bit of a tap there. I think that's killed Stevens' momentum. That's not going to be P3 for Stevens, but Harry Tompkins, well, he started off in the lead and all the drama behind him just helped him out. All he needed to do was keep it on the track, and that's what he did, taking the win in race 2. Sam Stride in second, Brian Trezise in third, and look at the gap there for fourth. Daniel Stevens almost pipped at the line by Maxfield and Donnelly. There was only 0.2 of a second between them all.
Barely anything in it between them in the end, but Stevens is going to be the one that comes out victorious in that little scrap to the line, and it's going to be a drag race as well for P15 and 14 as well between Howe and Dalton. Dalton's going to have the inside run on the way into this finish line, and he's going to have the straight line advantage, but looks like Howe's actually going to get the run on the outside and actually take the position off him.
Well, that's how it ends for our podium sitters from race 1. They had a very dramatic time, they did. Justin Howe missing his front end at the end of that. So, those are the results then. Harry Tompkins takes away the win here with Sam Stride 5 seconds behind. Trezise finishing in third, with Daniel Stevens finishing in fourth and Todd Maxfield completing the top 5 there. We're not quite sure what's going on with the overlays there, but that is not the finishing order of the race. Cade Donnelly in 6th, Westbrook 7th, Aaron Dillon finished 8th, Vernie 9th, and Christopher Finlay ultimately rounded out the top 10. It's time for the expression session then for these drivers. A 5-minute warm-up, and we'll be able to get going for the final race of the night, which is based on the finishing order from race 2. So it's going to be Tompkins and Stride on the front row with Stevens and Maxfield behind them. We'll be back very soon here on SimSpeed TV. You're watching round 5 of the Pro Truck Showdown from Interlagos.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my god!
big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, What?
You're watching the Pro Truck Showdown here on SimSpeed TV in beautiful Sao Paulo in Brazil for round 5 here at Interlagos. We saw some great racing in those first 2 races, and Aaron Dillon with a poor result in race 2 certainly going to help out our absentee Mitch McLeod. Cam, he's been pretty good in terms of pace in this series and looking good for the championship, but unfortunately Mitchell McLeod having to miss out this round. So I think there'll be a little bit less of a frown on his face, knowing that his championship rivals haven't had the best of nights so far.
Yes, certainly. It'll be helping him in the championship table department, that's for sure. The fact that the likes of Dylan and those around him have not really had that good of a night so far, so he'll be hoping that race 3 also shows a bit of bad luck to his rivals as well, but we'll have to see and wait and see what happens and who's going to come out on top in this final race.
Yes, and the final race is going to be 8 laps in length. We started with 5, then we went to 6, now we go to 8 for the final race of the night. And I'm interested to see what drivers like Cade Donnelly and Todd Maxfield can do, because they fought their way up through the field from 17th and 19th in race 2 to 4th and 5th. So with Sam Stride, Daniel Stevens and Harry Tompkins up ahead of them, they do still have a bit of work to do if they want to get to the front, but I certainly think that they're capable of it.
Certainly well and truly capable of, and so nearly majority of the field of it as well, as we've seen in the past 2 races. It's been a little bit hectic and a little bit carnage filled as well, so it's anybody's guess as to who's going to be at the front of this field in this next race, and who's going to come away with it and who's going to be ending up where.
Yes, indeed. So, final 10 seconds of the warm-up session before we get going for the final race of the night. In terms of round points, it's going to be a bit difficult to work out because we've had such a varied field throughout this night. But we'll have to wait and see. This has been a mysterious championship. It's thrown up a lot of surprises in the past rounds, and I'm looking forward to seeing what it serves up here at Interlagos for the final. And we are ready to go. So the grid will be as follows. It's Harry Tompkins and Sam Stride, the top 2 from race 2, starting on the front row, with Daniel Stevens and Todd Maxfield behind them. Cade Donnelly and Damian Westbrook on the second row, with Aaron Dillon and Dwayne Priest 7th and 8th. It's Nathan Verney and Christopher Finlay who round out the top 10.
They have Joshua Thomas and Gary Wellman on row 6. Just behind them on row 7, Justin Howe and Lockie Dalton, Philip Howell, and then Brian Trees, followed by Alan Rushworth and Brayden Adolph, and then you're going to have Lachlan Manif and Justin Haitley and Malcolm Coots rounding out the top 21 car field.
Indeed you will, and considering that Brayden Adolph and Lachlan Manif and Justin Haitley have not taken to the grid in the previous couple races, I expect they're not there again either. So, the revs rise. We're going to get ready to go here. Final race at Interlagos. A jump start, it looked like, from Damian Westbrook, but we are away. Not a bad launch from Tompkins, but it's a better launch from Sam Stride, going to go up the inside into turn 1, but Damian Westbrook having a penalty hanging over his head, I think there. Some technical issues for Tompkins as they file through turn 1, and he just comes back into being as Daniel Stevens makes his way past him. The clash goes on throughout the field, but it looks like they've all managed to get through the first couple turns cleanly.
Look like anybody's run into any sort of dramas, a little bit of biff and barge further back in the field, but for the most part, everybody's still straight and still facing the right way.
Oh no, unfortunately not. That's a huge coming together on the back straight. That's Gary Wellman and Nathan Verney that have come together somehow, and that looked like was on the exit of that particular turn. We had a couple of other incidents come on as well. We'll get a modem simulation replay. Oh, I see what happened to Verney here. He was shuffled out to the exit of the circuit by Lockie Dalton and trying to come back on. Verney hit the wall and Gary Wellman had absolutely nowhere to go. You see, there is the incident. Fortunately, it looks like other drivers weren't too involved in that.
He seems to have gotten by pretty unscathed, but what a wild ride that was for Wellman there, and it's not the way to end his night off, not the way that he hoped anyway, but one of those wild ones we'll see for sure. But it's on for the lead of this race. The same right under massive pressure from Daniel Stevens, who's launching it up the inside on the way down into the final corner, and Stevens is going to take this lead, but Strider's going to have the draft on the way up the hill.
That he is, and I'll keep an eye on Damien Westbrook as well to see if he pulls into the pits for a penalty for that potential jump start. Across the line then, at the end of lap 1, Sam Stride having the run on Daniel Stevens, with Harry Tompkins still holding on to 3rd place. Cade Donnelly, though, really starting to jet up to the back of him. It looks like no penalty, at least for now, for Damien Westbrook as he runs side by side with Maxfield coming into turn 1, and Stevens defending up the inside, keeps the position from Mr. Sam Stride.
Right there, ready to pounce is Sam Stride, and he's going to look to the inside of Daniel Stevens on the way down into turn number 4. He's going to try and break his leg as he dares. Stevens goes even deeper, but he's going to slot up the inside and manage to get the job done. But Stevens is not going to give this one easy, and he's going to try and hold it around the outside on the way through turn at number 5, and he's going to have the inside for turn number 6 as well. And Harry Tompkins is right there or thereabouts as well, so he's right in the position should these two come together, but it's going to be in favour of Stevens.
Yeah, for now at least. Sam Stride having to go wide, and Tompkins sees an opportunity, has a little look up the inside, and gets side by side with Stride coming up to the left-hander, but a little bit too wide there for Tompkins. That's going to, it's going to allow Cade Donnelly through with a bit of hip and shoulder, and onto the brakes into Biga de Pato. It looks like Donnelly is going to take that up on the throttle and through into 3rd place. It's a big fight behind Maxfield because we've got Dwayne Priest, Damien Westbrook, and Justin Howe all fighting for the same piece of racetrack here. Westbrook tries firing it into Junsao, and he's given a tag to Dwayne Priest, and around he goes, over he goes. Big shame for Dwayne Priest. He's gone back onto his wheels, though, so he's able to keep going, but he's gone back to the pits, so he joins Wellman in there. On for the lead as we go to a modem simulation replay. Stevens and Stride still side by side as we are live, but down into this corner you see Westbrook just fire it in and get sideways, and Dwayne Priest, he could do nothing about that, just tagged in the rear, and Westbrook just kept on going into him. So Dwayne Priest in the pits for repairs as I see Gary Wellman making his way back out onto the circuit with our leaders. Sam Stride with a great run on Daniel Stevens coming into turn 4. Slightly compromised exit, but he is a bit earlier on the brakes. Stevens goes a little too deep into turn 4, and it's happened again. Sam Stride into the lead, but can Stevens hold it up into Ferradura? Stride's going to try and move over, but Stevens is still there at his right rear quarter, and you see Cade Donnelly as well wanting to get in on this. Stevens protects the lead once again.
Seems to be doing a really, really good job of placing the car where he needs to, as Daniel Stevens, to be able to hold on to the lead of this race, and it's not really going to be helping Sam Stride's chances of trying to get into the lead as Donnelly looks to the inside with a little bit of a peek in the nose, but not quite able to get the job done. Now, this is a very big train. It's up to about 10 cars or so long at this stage.
And right in the thick of it is Harry Tompkins, who's just gotten a bit of a hit there from Philip Howe. Philip and Justin Howe run side by side down into the descending corner. It looks like Philip's going to have to back out of that one, but Justin is right on the back there of Harry Tompkins. For the lead, though, we might see another run into turn 1 as we come across the line to start lap 4. Sam Stride now on the outside of Daniel Stevens. The draft is working really well for him. So Stevens is going to have to go defensive down into turn 1. You can hold the outside around this corner if you manage the weight transfer right, but Stevens protects the inside from Stride. Stride needs to get on the throttle a little bit earlier, and he does. He slips on through into the lead. Oh, no, but Stevens gets him right back, and Stride almost turns himself around, but fortunately manages to keep going, but that has moved him all the way back to 5th place, and it could potentially get even worse because now he's got the pack of Tompkins, Hal, and Dalton all on him. Have a look at them. 3 wide coming into turn 4. Hal just slips up the inside of his father, and Lockie Dalton has to slot in behind the both of them. Sam Stride has to regroup now, keep the attack up. Daniel Stevens actually has lost the lead, I can see, because Kay Donnelly has moved on forward into P1.
Just to slip on it by very sneakily. Actually did it around the outside on the way through turn number 4 as well. So very good move there from Kay Donnelly. And now he's going to have Aaron Dillon for company as Daniel Stevens. And they're all checking up behind currently between Tompkins, Stride and everyone else. And they're all trying to find a little bit of racetrack here and there and everywhere. But it's all a bit of a chaos and trainer cars everywhere.
Yeah, that's it. Sam Stride doesn't seem to be able to advance much further. Josh Thomas and Christopher Finlay, meanwhile, this is for the final position in the top 10, and Thomas just slotting in ahead of Finlay, with Christopher looking to the inside for Jun Sao potentially, but not going to happen for him, and cuts across the inside of the corner too. Meanwhile, Philip Howe and Lockie Dalton side by side for position 8, and Dalton's just going to slip through here on Phillip, and goodness me, Howe just avoids the wall in the process. No harm, no foul though. They're going to be able to keep going. Justin Howe, meanwhile, going to move up the inside of Tompkins into turn 1 as Stevens continues to defend from Dillon. Oh my goodness! That was huge coming into the first turn. And it's amazing that it seems like not many drivers were disadvantaged by that one. Goodness me. What even happened there? It looked like Maxfield just went straight into them.
Not quite sure what happened, and yeah, it did look like Maxfield broke a little bit late, but then he obviously got a bit sideways and Stride had nowhere to go, and it was a bit of a mess as a result. Luckily, everybody managed to keep it on going and keep it straight as well, but what a way to go into turn 1, that's for sure.
Yeah, wow. And very well done for all the drivers to maintain momentum there. Looked like poor Sam Stride had to take an awful lot of avoiding action. But we're through then, past half race distance, and have a look at Dalton and Howe side by side out of Ferradura. Philip Howe covers off Harry Tompkins coming into the right-hander, and oh my goodness, there goes Justin Howe with a bit of a hip check on Tompkins up the inside into the hairpin. Tompkins is going to go for it again though at Vico de Pato. Let's see if Justin Howe can stab the throttle and get the run he needs. It's going to be difficult, but it looks like he's just managed to get it done. At the turn-in point, slips on by. Tompkins trying his best to hold it round the outside and make it difficult for Howe coming into Jun Sao, compromises exit. But we'll see how that works out for him, because Justin Howe has put down the power very nicely, and though Tompkins has a whiff of a draft, it's not going to help him a huge amount, I don't think. The train for the lead, though. Kay Donnelly, Daniel Stevens. Stevens with the mother of all drafts coming up to turn 1. Donnelly sticks to the inside to defend, but Stevens tries to go for the fast line here, gain a little bit of track position on Donnelly. It seems to be working out for him so far, and that might translate into a great move into turn 4. I'm seeing a car tumbling over. That's Justin Howe at turn 1.
Yeah, that's not gone well for Justin Howe. Contact with Tompkins as well by the looks of it. Tompkins just went in a little bit too deep and just clipped the rear wheel, and up and over Justin Howe went.
And there goes Kay Donnelly back into the lead of the race at turn 4. He hitched it up really nicely there. Daniel Stevens tried it perfectly up the inside, but not working out for him. Aaron Dillon now trying to hold it around the outside of Stevens here for second place. Hard on the brakes, coming into the right-hander. Stevens overshoots a bit, pushes Dillon out wide slightly, moves back on ahead, coming into the hairpin. Oh, problem for Sam Stride, meanwhile. Had to give up the position to Lockie Dalton, and a bit of contact with Maxfield and Howe behind. That's Gary Wellman, meanwhile, with a very substandard-looking truck on pit entry.
Quite sure what's happened there, and it's very, very second-hand looking, but he's on his way into pit the pits to get it repaired, and say that would probably be his race over as well, with that engine not being too happy. But here's a replay of what happened to Justin Howell here, with Harry Tompkins just beside him. Tompkins going to the inside on the way into turn number 1. You can see he manages to get up alongside and well and truly on to get the position. Then just a little bit of contact wheel and up and over he went.
Goodness. Yeah, okay. Well, I'll put my hand up and say, look, I did say that nothing might happen between the two of them, and then everything happened. So, my fault. Meanwhile, for the lead once again, Aaron Dillon is pushing hard. Gets past Daniel Stevens on the inside into turn 1. Stevens hits him back a little bit, but Dillon is through then into the lead, and Cade Donnelly is going to have to really start looking at his mirrors now, because Aaron Dillon, winner of the first round at Phillip Island, he's going to be looking for a bit of gold to add to his day here in Sao Paulo. Moving back across, Cade Donnelly covers him, coming into turn 4, but it looks like he's gone a bit too deep into the 4th turn. That's going to allow Dillon to slip up the inside, and Stevens is going to try and join him. Bit of contact between the two of them, but Donnelly forced out onto the runoff. He's going to try and defend from Stevens here up the inside into Ferradura, but Aaron Dillon doesn't have to worry about much of that. No, actually he does. He has overshot it once again. Donnelly again back through into the lead, and Stevens trying for second versus Aaron Dillon. Meanwhile, have a look at Lockie Dalton, Sam Stride, Todd Maxfield and Phillip Howe. This is really helping them out.
Certainly is, and it looks like Stevens is going to try and hold around the outside, which he's going to barely be able to do. Not quite going to be able to get the position back and all slot in behind Dillon, but this has really brought back in the likes of Dalton, Stride, Maxfield and Howe all into this little battle, and Tompkins not too far behind as well, so this is going to get really spicy with 1 to go.
Yes, indeed, and almost getting into the back of Donnelly was Dillon at Junção, but here we go. The last run down the start-finish straight under green flag conditions before we get the finish. Todd Maxfield and Phillip Howe have come together once or twice on the exit of Junção. Gave each other a bit of hip and shoulder, but looks like they've worked that out amongst themselves. Across the line then, it is white flag for Cade Donnelly. Will he still be in that position in 2 minutes' time? We shall see. Oh no! Aaron Dillon gets rear-ended by Daniel Stevens into turn 1. Stevens rear-ended again by Lockie Dalton. Both of them off the circuit, having to make their way back on. That is a podium for both of them, just ruined.
It certainly is, and they're not going to be happy about that at all, but it's allowed the likes of Sam Stride to move into a podium position now as well, and Aaron Dillon and Daniel Stevens will push on as hard as they possibly can to try and catch up to these top 3, but I don't think there's going to be enough time for them to do it. But Cade Donnelly is going to be loving this at the moment, with the fact that he's got a nice little lead at the moment.
Indeed, and we just saw the move by Phillip Howe on Todd Maxfield into turn 4 as well. So the fight for the lead is now down to 3. There's Aaron Dillon and Daniel Stevens in 4th and 5th. Stevens still wants the position, though. Going to try up the inside of Dillon into the hairpin. No. Dillon carries the momentum beautifully through the corner. For Cade Donnelly, though, he's just got a few more braking zones where he has to really watch his mirrors for Lockie Dalton. And Sam Stride right there as well. Big acceleration zone, bit of wheel spin from Cade Donnelly. That allows Dalton to get up to the back of him massively here. It's all going to come down now to the run down the start-finish stretch. Donnelly nails the throttle application. It's a slightly worse throttle application from Lockie Dalton. Sam Stride right in the draft of him. He could get second here. For Cade Donnelly, though, it looks like he has the space he needs, and that's going to be enough to take the 3rd race victory of the night here in Interlagos. Fantastic win for Cade, and between Dalton and Stride, it's going to be decided with Dalton in front by just 1/10 of a second.
Barely ahead at the line, but that's all he needed in the end, so still managed to get the position that he ended up wanting. Probably could have been a win if he had just managed to get on by, but unfortunately it's not going to be what it is.
Well, there we go. Almost everyone across the line, and we're going to get a quick replay of that incident just before coming into turn 1. And that's what happened. between Dylan and Stevens. Looks like Stevens might have gotten a little bit of help there. Let's have another look then, coming up the start-finish straight on board with Stevens. See if he gets any rear-end contact. Oh, yeah, a little bit. That's what caused him to go right into, almost into Aaron Dillon. But for Dillon himself, it's looking like just some massive contact on the run-up from Daniel Stevens. Just a bit too late on the brakes there. Gets another whack for his troubles as well. So both of them ultimately ending up out of podium contention thanks to that.
Yeah, unfortunately, more racing deal as well, with the fact that there was a bit of nose to tail sort of action going on there, but nevertheless the result is what it is, and still nice, decent point toss. So they'll probably still be up around the top 5, if not the top 3, in terms of in scoring results.
Indeed, those are the results from race 3. Donnelly and Dalton in the top 2 there, with Sam Stride completing the podium. Aaron Dillon and Daniel Stevens ran out the top 5, but they could have been 2nd and 3rd. Philip Howe and Harry Tompkins, 6th and 7th. Good for Tompkins there to hold on from a pole position start to finish 7th against some very competitive drivers. Todd Maxfield, Josh Thomas and Christopher Finlay round out the top 10 at the end of the night.
Page 2, Justin Howell, followed by Brian Trees and Nathan Verney, Gary Wellman and Damien Westbrook round out the top 15. Then you have Dwayne Priest, Alan Rushworth, Braden Adolph, Justin Haitley and Malcolm Coates rounding out the field.
So, unfortunately, that's 5 drivers either not starting or not making it to the finish in the final race of the night. But looking at those results, it seems like Cade Donnelly has some of the most consistent results out there, but he is going to have a bit of it's going to have quite a challenge, I think, from Sam Stride with 4th, 2nd and 3rd in the 3 races of the night. Either way, the championship is going to look quite interesting when we come to the next round, this time next week. If you're going to ask where the next round is, the answer is we don't know. Neither do the drivers. We all find out on Friday. So we'll see you next week then for the next round of the Pro Truck Showdown. I'm Reese Gardner, Cam Dance alongside me, and Jay Kennedy making everything happen behind the scenes. We want to thank Allstate Security in Tasmania, Hot Toddies, and of course Scamander Coffee Mug for their support of this series. We'll see you next week for some more action-packed truckin'.